Hello everyone. Today I rank every single level in Fall Guys up to Season 4. There's 47 levels overall. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, but I'm just going to get you through the rules here. Firstly, no variation specific ones. So, like, Perfect Deathmatch is not included. It will be ranked with Perfect Match. And the show specific finals and stuff like that are not going to be included either. So, there's no Slime Scraper final, no survival round hexagon, but they will also influence my decision on those particular maps. Without further ado, let's begin. At number 47, we have Basketfall. I hate Basketfall with a passion. Every time I see it come up, I get filled with hatred. But yeah, Basketfall is just not a fun map, in my opinion. Some people enjoy it more, but I don't. It's just the thing with you're mainly relying on your teammates in this game, and also grabbing is, of course, really stupid. In this minigame in particular, it's at its worst because the balls are so bouncy as well. And like I've had cases of people grabbing me and yeeting me instantly halfway across the bloody map because, the game didn't even like let them grab onto me for like 5 seconds. It just instantly did it. And then there's also the ones where it's like people grab balls through me. It's just it's so weird. It's so dumb. That's why I hate Basketball, and that's why it's at number 47. Least favorite game in the entire game. Number 46, we have that was glitchy. Snowy Scrap. Now, this, as you can see, got the nickname Snowy Crap. Why? Because as it says, it's a snowy level, but it's crap. Basically, you get three teams, and they all got to try and roll a snowball around this arena in order to try and grow their ball to the max size. Problem with this, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. This is like that season 1 minigame Rock and Roll, except worse. Basically, you have to. It basically, because it's more open area, more open space, your team don't know what the fuck they're doing and try and push it against each other. And that's why this minigame in particular sucks. Number 45. If you know me, you know my least favorite race round is Fruit Shoot. Fruit Shoot is like probably one of the more annoying rounds, to be honest. It's the fruit just is shot out in just really annoying ways. And it's like sometimes it's all clumped up together, they move in like really obnoxious ways. The conveyor belt doesn't make it easier by pushing you downwards. So if you get knocked over, it's kind of screws you over. I think the conveyor belt is probably the worst of my worries in this level. And combine it with the fruit, it's just not a fun time. I'd certainly prefer this round if there was maybe like conveyor belts like at parts of the level, not the entire level being one massive conveyor belt leading up to the top. And if there was like if the game actually but yeah, if the game like pushed you towards the middle because the middle's the hardest bit to get through because all the fruit goes there. Instead, you're just stuck sitting on the sides using the triangle things to shield you, and sometimes it doesn't even work. And that's why I in particular hate Fruit Shoot. At number 44, Big Shots. Big Shots has to be one of the most boring survival games in the entire game. You simply just run along the seesaw and try to avoid these three cannons firing at you from one side. I certainly there is a variation where there's 5 cannons, you might argue, but even so, it makes it more obnoxious because A, you can also still sometimes get away with sitting around in one spot and doing nothing like in the normal one. And B, sometimes they'll just appear from off screen and drop on top of you. And that's a bit unfair considering you can't look upwards in the game. yeah, big shots for me. I've just not really liked it ever since its release in season 4. Number 43, Penguin Pursuit. You have to chase after a bunch of penguins and score as much points for your team as you possibly can. Now, I like this map. I like the penguins, but the problem here is, again, it's like a team game, and it's like really, it's way too chaotic sometimes because there's so many team players. I'd prefer this as like a normal round, so like a hunting game. It just doesn't feel like a good team game, if I'm honest. It feels like, you know, sometimes it just feels like I can't do anything because, again, the grabbing mechanic's back and it's really dumb as well. And usually everyone chases after, like, a, it's usually just massive crowds on the penguins. However, I have had one time where there was no one on me and I just held the penguin the entire game. So yeah. But anyway, still doesn't save this minigame. Number 42, DoorDash. I think this is the mini game which everyone thinks of when those people who say the game is dead. The reason, well, most of the people that hate the game think that this is all Fall Guys is just DoorDash, and that's not the case. DoorDash is probably one of my least favorite round one mini games because just it's just pure RNG. You just pick a door. I mean, the only thing that's saving it from being any lower is the fact that I do like that it is kind of a reference to Takeshi's Castle. That is, yeah. But other than that, I don't really like this minigame too particularly much, and yeah, I guess that's why it's here. Number 41. Oh, for God's sakes, it's all glitching. Number 41, we have Perfect Match. Um, Now, Perfect Match, don't get me wrong, it's not it's some would rate it as the worst minigame in the entire game. Don't get me wrong, I do hate it. But the thing that's saving it and putting it in front of the other stuff is the Perfect Deathmatch variation. Because the spinning bar just makes it a lot more intense, I think, and just makes it a lot more fun to deal with. I feel like if anything, that should be the norm. It is the norm for squads mode. There's no normal perfect match. It's always perfect deathmatch variation because no one gets eliminated on perfect match. It's way too easy if you have a good memory. If you don't have a good memory, though, again, you can just follow the crowd, and usually you won't get punished because usually people remember. I mean, it used to eliminate a lot of people when people like followed each other and all got it wrong. I remember once a bunch of people like crowded around one tile and got it wrong, and then one person qualified and just won it in season 1. Uh, those are the good old days. But anyway, perfect match number 41. At number 40, Egg Siege. Another grabbing team game. If you haven't got noticed a pattern here, basically I hate the grabbing mini games. The grabbing mechanic is really buggy at times, and desync plays a huge part in that, and the reason why I hate it. But yeah, Egg Siege, I'm not really too big a fan of this because there's 3 different zones and they're all like kind of difficult to get out of somewhat. And also, again, this is going to be one of those team games where just 2 teams gang up on another team. I feel like the way this team game should work to make it more interesting is have one team have to qualify it rather than 2, because otherwise, it just makes it feel really, uh, yeah, it just makes it feel a bit too unfair if you're on a certain team and you can't do anything to defend your team. Number 39. Oh, Hoarders. This is basically the exact same thing as Egg Siege, apart from you jump and dive into balls, so of course I prefer it because, you know, there's less grabbing in this one. But the reason why it's still down here is opposite to Egg Siege. It had like a nice map to it, I'm gonna be honest. But this one, the map's just really basic. And it also feels quite big. It feels like really big and empty, if anything. I feel like there should be more obstacles in it, but again, it's Hoarders. And again, people gang up on one team just to make them lose. And that would be quite unfair. So, yeah. But, I mean, I don't get it very often anymore, so, yeah. Number 38, Roll On. Roll On is, not as, I'm just iffy about Roll On. It's fun concept using the rollers from Rollout in turning it into a race, but honestly, I'm not really too fond of it. I kind of liked it a bit more when they added the like extra variants, but like I'm still not too fond of it as you know, they're not really used in too many like interesting ways, to be honest. And yeah, I rather the other roller games, but it's still just a mediocre mini game overall. Number 37, Egg Scramble. Now, Egg Scramble, the reason why I put it above Egg Siege is because Egg Scramble, I mean, was the first one, the one they added in Season 1, and there's a lot, the map's a lot smaller and more, like, condensed and more action-packed. But again, the reason why it's still down here is because the grabbing and the bullying one team problem. It's above Hoarders because the map's actually got hazards like hammers and little cup hold things. And yeah, you can use a bit more strategy in Egg Scramble than you can use in some of the other team games, but not a lot though. Number 36, Team Tail Tag. This one. This one's alright, actually, for a team game. The other, again, it is another one that involves grabbing, and I do not like that, as you know. But honestly, I quite like it. It's the only team game that actually has more than three teams. It has four teams. It's the only team game where the green team make an appearance, actually. But yeah, Team Tail Tag is basically you have to steal tails and try and keep them for your team. But the thing I'd say about this one is, it's like, you know, some people think that the reason why some people think this mini game's like really bad as your teammates have like a huge influence as you can only hold up each person can only hold up to one tail at a time at best, but there is ways you can help your teammates get a tail. You can run into them and get them to steal your tail, which actually is a beneficial, so you can go out and get another tail for yourself. This, so a lot of the hate from Team Tail Tag, I think a lot of the negativity it sparks, I don't think is true because you can help your teammates. And I've even had one game where we were about to lose and I grabbed someone who had a tail so my teammate could catch up to him and get the tail. So, and then we got to overtime and we ended up qualifying. The only thing I'd say about this minigame though is I feel like a lot more teams should be eliminated. Like maybe eliminate two of the teams instead of one of them, like just to make it more interesting. So it's like half the teams go out. But honestly, I don't really mind it, to be honest. Number 35, Jump Club. See, the thing with Jump Club is it's another survival game, so it's bound to be like really repetitive. It's the only thing saving it above like Big Shots and those other boring survival games. The only the only thing that stops it from being boring is that there's harder variants of it where there's multiple lower bars, there's also fruit cannons that can spawn in. It used to be just the singular bar going down on the lower part. But the thing is, it's just if there's it still has those boring old variants where you still have those like singular lower bar sweeping round. But other than that, it's just meh for me. Number 34, Roll Out. Again, it's very similar to Jump Club, which I just talked about, and it's basically a mix of Jump Club and Roll On, if I'm honest. Roll Out is you have a bunch of rotating rings and you have to run around them. The thing is, these rings don't have much in the way of obstacles on them, apart from a couple of bumpers and holes in them, and walls, and that's it. The only thing that saves this minigame and makes it higher up is the fact that there can be less rollers than just the big five, and that there's also a version where there's like five different fruit cannons spewing fruit at you, making it a lot harder. That's what Big Shots needed to be, but it didn't do it in the end, and Rollout is just loads better. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, we're back. Number 33. Now, this one you'll be surprised about. It's Jump Showdown, but a lot of people really, really like this map. And I feel like the only reason why they like it is because it's probably one of the easiest finals to win on. Because there's more of a chance of it timing out, and that means there can be multiple winners. And honestly, I'm not really too big a fan of Jump Showdown. The main reason why is because it's it lasts forever. It takes so long just to reach the end of the round. There's a 5 minute time limit on it, which once the 5 minutes are up, the round just ends and everyone who's left qualifies. But the problem I have with it is, of course, it just takes too long again, and multiple people are awarded crowns for it, so it's like insanely easy. You just have to keep repeatedly jumping over the bar, and you'll be fine. Another problem with this map is it can like literally just section you off and kill you. And honestly, I'd rather not be stuck with people, so I'm usually taking these parts where I get sectioned off and killed because I run out of platforms and my last platform drops. It would be nice if it would always like separate like into two sides instead of having like one big platform where everyone could just jump. It would make it a lot more intense. But I also like another thing I really like is that there's the jump blowdown variant of where there's the spinning fan that goes round, and that one's like an extra challenge for you to avoid. I like that. It makes it more obnoxious when people are all grouped up together. Number 32, Jinxed. This team game is probably one of the better ones, I think. You can actually influence your team a bit with you have to survive as long as possible if you're not jinxed. But if you get jinxed, you have to go around infecting the other team. So you can really help in this one. Uh yeah, I've been like the star. I've been jinxed to start with a couple times. My biggest issue with this round though is the um what was it? Yeah, there's this round in the main show. There's usually way too many people. It's so chaotic. There's about 20 people on each team, and it's just crazy. That's why I tend to, but to counter that in squads mode, if you make it to the final, you can have this round as a final, and it will just be a 4v4, which I really like because then you can just it's just more fun, more intense. And yeah, it's, when you get like when you're like the last person on your team, it just becomes impossible to dodge everyone because there's like 20 people trying to attack you. They can easily corner you. Number 31, Power Trip. This one, I don't know why. I just really like this and have always thought of this to be a good team game where you have to like step on a bunch of different tiles to color them in your team's color. Only thing I wish there were more teams. I think it would make it more interesting because now it's just like basically whoever gets to have the most batteries ends up winning. But if there's more teams, it would make it more chaotic, more intense. If there was like 4 different teams competing in this, I think it would be really fun. This would just make sense for one of those games to have 4 different teams and have like a lot of players on it. So it would be more chaotic, people would be stealing batteries. Again, the grabbing mechanic is not very good. Uh, I forgot to mention that with Jinx as well. I like the map design and layouts, to be honest, but it's overall, if you want like an easy round to win, definitely don't try this because your teammates can easily screw you over. Number 30, Thin Ice. Another final that's like really easy. Basically, Thin Ice is basically Season 1's Hexagon round, but all the layers are stacked on top of each other and all the tiles have like 3 stages before they break. Like there's slightly cracked, more cracked, and then just breaks off. But the thing about this round, it just people, the people that like this say about like the rounds, how rounds like this, most of the final rounds in the game anyway, take a long time before it actually gets intense. The thing with Thin Ice, though, it feels like it takes even longer, and it just feels not very intense at all, since a lot of the tiles you could literally stall on once it gets closer to the end, and you can just stall on them for as long as you want and just plan your movements, and it just gets really, really easy, pretty much. It can be really easy, but it just depends on the final bit. And of course, the mid-season update, they decided to add a low gravity variant, which is somehow even worse than Thin Ice already is, because uh, it just comes down to who who jumps last, who lands and jumps on the very last tile. Uh, Number 29 though, we have big fans. I don't mind big fans. Honestly, the main thing I have with big fans is that people really suck at this map. Like it takes really long for people to qualify on it. It takes way too long. It literally is a very simple design. It's really flat, and you just have to jump from fan to fan. I didn't realize. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize people would be so bad at this map because, like, you know, they wanted like an easier version of Seesaw, so that's what they gave us. And yeah, this map's just like somehow really hard. Like I remember, like in season 2, it always timed out. The main thing that puts big fans up here, though, is that uh, in extreme mode, this map is hella scary. Like, this is one of the biggest killers in extreme mode. If you don't know what extreme mode is, basically, if you fall off the map, you just die. And instead of the normal races being racing to the end, being the top percent to qualify, it's just you have to make it to the end and just try not to fall off. And you're racing against a timer more than anything else. But yeah, Big Fans is one of those heavy eliminators in extreme mode, Big Fans X, and that's why it's got a higher up ranking than some of the other maps. Number 28, Tail Tag. It's another grabbing minigame. Only this is basically the exact same thing as Team Tail Tag, except solo. So you don't have to rely on your teammates to, be good at the game. But the thing with Tail Tag is it's really intense because, you have to have a tail yourself at the end in order to qualify. But the thing is, which makes it more difficult, is that is that there's like a bunch of different levels on the map, and it's like the camera is really not very great in this map, and that's your biggest enemy. That's why I don't like it so much more than the other hunting games, but honestly, if you play with names on and turn names on, it can be a lot easier to do. And I like that there's a bunch more obstacles that feel more useful and can make it a lot more nice to get away from things, get away from other people. There's a lot of stuff in this level that can help you do that, and that's why it's so much better than Team Tail Tag, which is more open. But I can see why Team Tail Tag is more open because it's more for more players. Number 27, Hit Parade. Not my favorite race, I'm not gonna lie. Um, it's just the starting feels so awkward. It just feels like it's not meant for 60 players and actually meant for a later round. They could have made it like a lot smaller and held less players, like 30 players, but nah, it's a 60 player game and it's like really obnoxious because everyone's like crammed together and it's really really easy to mess up on it. Especially the stupid gate section. That's the biggest reason why I'm not putting it so high up as some of the other races, but there is a variant where there's like spinning bars on the lower side, but then it's once you get to the end, you have to push. Everyone's like crowding through the little gate thing at the end. It's just, uh, it's just not very enjoyable, to be honest. And the ending especially is just really chaotic. No one knows what's going on, and it's like really hard to get up. Number 26, Block Party. Block Party is another one of those meh ones. It's basically you have to survive these walls until until, you know, just the round ends by itself, until the timer runs out, pretty much. The round just ends by itself. It's kind of slow, if I'm honest, until like the very end, where it's like cramming people into the corridor. But other than that, it doesn't really eliminate too many people. It's just like kind of in the middle for the maps, in my opinion. It's just meh. I don't like it too much, but I don't hate it. Number 25, Tundra Run. Tundra Run is my least favorite of the season-specific races. Like this one was to show off all the winter obstacles, like the punches, the slingus flinguses, uh the fans, the snowballs, all that stuff. The main problem I have with Tundra Run is there's a few problems I have. So it's let's I'm just gonna break down each section. The one section, the two sections I'm fine with are the section at like the two middle ones, like the very middle where you have like the split path, and you can either go around the sides or jump across the punches in the middle. That section's all right because that section's pretty good because it shows it off really well. And then the section immediately after that way, there's the fan trying to push you back, and you have to dodge, make it past the fan, and you also have to make it past the slingus flinguses. The biggest problem is the start, the first two sections and the very last section. The first section is just really cramped, I feel like, for 60 players. It's a bit too chaotic, in my opinion, and Yeah, it just feels like a really awkward section. The next section where you have to pick a path is so dumb because, the easy section is actually the shorter section, kind of, because you can go through the middle section, which is the hardest section, but it also slows you down because you have to wait for the fists to retract, or you have to wait for the thick bonkuses to swing by. Whereas you can literally just jump off the side and run up the sides. There's no point in going down the middle. And then once you get to the very end, you have to jump across the Slingus Flinguses, and the reason why I hate that section is because the Slingus Flinguses suck. They literally sometimes fling you too far. Sometimes don't even fling you very far at all. Sometimes you jump onto them and it just sticks you to them. I don't know why that happens, but yeah, those just if they fixed all those sections and made them like a lot more fun, a lot better, yeah, this one would be a bit higher up, I'd say. Number 24. Rock and Roll, another pretty good team. This is where the pretty good team games come in my opinion. Rock and Roll has you rolling a ball to the end of this little maze, and you have to make it to the end, and the last team to make it gets eliminated. I like this round because the obstacles at the start are like really interesting. There's a lot of different obstacles, and you have to find your path through them, and work as a team to do it. But the final sections where it gets really interesting because you can just grief the other teams and try and push them back. That's why a lot of people just run to the end at the start. Uh, I don't know why I like this one. I just like the pushing the ball through the maze aspect of it. It just feels like a really well-made mini game and one of the more unique team games as well. Certainly way better than Snowy Scrap that tried to do something very similar to this, but I prefer this one a lot more, and it's a lot more enjoyable. Number 23, Gate Crash. Now, I put this a lot higher up if there was a lot more to it, but there's only like 5 gates which you have to like jump through and time. This is mainly just a timing game. Oh, yeah, my voice hurts. You have to time your way through the gates and dodge the uh, bumper sticks. And the very final one I like that you have to jump and dive through the gates. Otherwise, if you mess up, you're basically dead. Um, but yeah, this mini game's really fun. It's certainly one of the better ones to have for your first mini game in this game because other than the fact that if you mess up, you die instantly, this is one of the more fun ones. It's the easiest of the rounds to understand if it's your first time playing Fall Guys. So that's why I really like this map. The only thing is, I wish it was a bit longer. Number 22, Tiptoe. Oh God, everyone hates Tiptoe. I feel like most people hate Tiptoe, but I actually quite like it. It's a lot. It's some people would prefer DoorDash over this. I don't. I don't. DoorDash is straight up RNG. This one, you have to pick a path, but it's also kind of skill based as well. It's not just RNG, as you can literally see that the tiles that shake are the fake ones, and I just love how the new variations they've been adding like a bunch of cool stuff. Like there's a variation where you have to use where there's an option to use a big Yeetus. There's a variation where there's thick bonkers is covering the path to the end. It makes it so much more interesting, so much more action packed. But honestly, this mini game can be kind of annoying sometimes because if you mess up at the very end, you're kind of screwed. If it's like on the easy variants, and people can easily push you off, and it can, yeah, it can suck sometimes, but I quite like it. Number 21, Fall Ball. Okay, I know, here's where the dislikes come. Basically, I really like fall ball in comparison to some of the other team games. It's very similar to basketball, but I still prefer it a lot more since I feel like I have a lot more control over my team. Because it's basically you can have multiple balls at once, and you have to try and hit the ball into the other team's goal. It's basically football. I like football. I like playing football. I don't really like watching it so much, but I do watch it sometimes. Speaking of the England finals coming up soon, yay, on Sunday. Be sure to watch it if you're English, I guess. But yeah, um, four balls a really fun mini game. There's a bunch of hazards that can spawn in it as well. I definitely prefer it to basketball as you don't have to actually grab and hold on to the balls as much. And there's a lot less balls instead, so you can focus a lot more, and it's even better in squads as you can strategize very well, and it just becomes like a really fun game of football. Number 20, Dizzy Heights. Uh, Dizzy Heights is an interesting mini game because you have to make it to the end of the obstacle course of spinning platforms. I like it, but everyone seems to be like really good at this one, and this one's just with 60 players, it just gets a bit chaotic somewhat. I prefer a lot of the variations on this. I like that there's a lots of variations. I like that they're just repeatedly trying to make this harder. It's a lot of fun, but again, it's a traditional race round, so like everyone's just gonna be like all together most of the race because there's not much not much that can slow you down. But I especially love that you can get a big yeetus at the end and finish it off, and especially the final sections variants are really fun. I just wish there was like a wall of slime coming at you from behind or something, It just feels like it's missing something for me to be even better. Number 19, Seesaw. Okay, another one that's really controversial. I like Seesaw, alright? It's very fun. Uh, I like that they used seesaws to make it more player influenced and make the game more interesting. It's kind of more strategic because you have to pay attention to which sides the seesaws are um being weighed down on, and yeah, it's just perfect for 60 players. It's just meant for this game. There's a lot of there's a couple of other variations the seesaws can be in. Like that, there was once like a variation with the vertical seesaws, like going. I don't know how else to describe them, but like you lifted them up on one side, and it was I don't know. I don't know how to describe them other than vertical, but yeah, those variations were kind of annoying though, so I think those ones got removed. One thing that I really think they should add back is that it seems that they were planning on adding cannons at the end. I would love to see cannons in Seesaw. It would make it very interesting. It would be basically big shots, but as a race. It would make it so much more fun, and it would do what Big Shots tried to do, but better. Number 18, Skiffle. Now, Skiffle is a mini game where you have to race down to the bottom of the slope and jump through rings and score as many points as you can. Um, Basically, it's kind of like they were planning like a skydiving sort of mini game and like a falling down mini game where all about falling. And this is that mini game that they were planning on. And it's like you have to run down the slopes and jump through hoops and score as many points as you can. The hoops have different values, and there's a lot of variations to this as well that were especially added in season 4.5. Um, but yeah, it's a very fun round, and especially with the big yeetuses and stuff like that that can come into play, it makes it all the more interesting. Number 17, Roll Off. It's another survival-based final, but I quite like Roll Off more than Thin Ice and Jump Showdown, simply because the two rollers like speed up. It's more action-packed basically. There's less players for this though, so it's basically just rollout, but with three key differences. First key difference is there's only two rollers. Second key difference you'll notice is rollers actually speed up over time, whereas the ones on rollout don't. And the third key difference is the slime actually rises, giving you less room to maneuver. It gets really insane towards the end. It's funny because it shows how you can do a lot with a little, and this became a final round, and I just love it. I loved it when it was dropped. It was a big surprise. I never saw it coming, and yeah, it's just a fun map. Number 16, Hoopsie Daisy. Now, Hoopsie Daisy is probably my favorite team game of the bunch. You have to jump through hoops and score points for your team. The more points you score, the better. The team with the least amount of points gets eliminated. Yeah, the more points you get, the more you help your team. There's three teams, and they just compete, and the loser gets eliminated. There's a lot of different variations of this as well. There's like one with fans in, one with slingus flinguses, and yeah, the I just love how the hoops are like, you know, you, I just love how satisfying it feels jumping and diving through hoops to score points. It's just so satisfying. It's probably the most satisfying minigame of them all, one of the more satisfying ones. Um, and there's golden hoops as well, which score 5 points for your team. That's which is a lot and can really help your team and make the difference. This is a mini game where your teammates can't really hinder your progress, so I guess it's um really fun. I don't know what else to say, really. It's just a really satisfying and fun mini game. It's my favorite team game. And we've made it into the final 15 just like that. Starting it off with number 15. We have Wool Guys. Another very hated map. I don't get why people hate these maps so much. They're so much fun. Wall Guys basically, you have to move these blocks and try to scale the walls. Um, the the thing is, there's a lot of different variations of these blocks as well. There's like slopes blocks, there's fan blocks, there's blocks that are bigger than other blocks. It's It's crazy. You've just got to use these blocks to your advantage. Sometimes you can get away without pushing blocks, but usually you'll have to have someone take the bait. I love those sorts of mini games where someone has to try and take the bait to try and um has to try and take the bait, and like someone else is like sitting at the end and trying to wait for you. That's it's just so funny. Um just seeing people like confused, like who's gonna do it? Who's gonna do it? Uh, and yeah, and then in reality, just to make it that extra bit more interesting, um, just to stop people waiting there for like forever, the walls actually slowly move down, making it a lot more interesting, and you have to work together kind of with your enemies. It's a lot of fun. Number 14, Royal Fumble. Royal Fumble is a final in which there are like a really low amount of players and one person has a tail. Everyone else has to try and fight for the tail, and whoever has the tail at the very end wins. At the very end of the time limit wins. The problem with this map is it's a bit buggy, but I like that it's a different final from all the others. Like about 60%, 66% of the finals are survival ones. Like last person standing wins. This one is just last person to have the tail wins. So it just becomes a big fight. And I freaking loved when they threw in that April Fool's show where 24 players had to fight for one tail. But yeah. Um, it's the thing with the maps. The map's really well designed for this map sort of round. The only thing is I would have added like a couple of big eaters or something into it just to make it like, more easy to get away from people and like jump across the map. It'd make it so much more interesting like they did with Tail Tag, but Royal Fumble's instantly more interesting because it's a final. And if you know me, you know I'm a sucker for the final rounds. So, Royal Fumble, number 14. At number 13, we have Button Bashers. Button Bashers is a hunting round. Unlike the other two hunting games, this one isn't actually based on any of the team games. This one isn't like copied from one of the team games and put into a solo variant. This one's just completely custom and was made in season 4.5. Basically, there are 7 buttons and you're pitted against someone else and you have to hit the buttons that light up to score points. I love this map for 2 major reasons. Firstly, it's the first map where everyone's like separated into 1v1 arenas. That's kind of cool. I really like that. And it's like point-based and time-based now. And secondly, I like that the buttons actually do different things when you hit them. So like the middle one changes the gravity for the middle section. The ones in the corners set off fans, and the other ones spawn in platforms up to the middle. And you have to use these to your advantage to hit as many buttons as possible. The biggest problem with this though is A, desync. Like you could hit a button before someone else and it gives them the point. And B, the other thing, oh, what was I gonna say? Yes, it's just the buttons themselves can be kind of obnoxious to hit. Like sometimes I feel like I have to stand on some of the buttons for ages to hit them. It's just the hitboxes on them are really whack. And it's just, yeah. And plus, I feel like they just never spawn near me as well, sometimes. But yeah, it's a fun one to be fair, and I had a really funny game on this when my teammate disconnected. That was just funny on its own, and I also like that this can literally be anywhere from 30 or less players as long as it's an even number, which even means you can have a 2-player final of this, and it's not even classed as a final. I love it. Number 12. Full Mountain. Another really hated map. I've seen online people want this map like freaking gone from the game, but that ain't happening. This is the OG map. You have to make it to the top and grab the crown while cannons are flying down to cannons are shooting cannonballs towards you. Uh Honestly, I don't think this is that bad of a map in particular, because everyone spawns in the same row now, making it more fair, because it used to be everyone spawned in different rows, and if you spawned in one of the back rows, you were basically done for, and that is where I always spawned. Um, and yeah, the very end can be kind of intense, especially when you can't like see the cannonballs above you because you can't angle your camera up high enough. But you can easily like dodge some of the cannonballs on your way up. You just have to pay attention. And even and I love how they added even a meme, big yeetus at the very end as well, where you can just yeet yourself and try and hit the crown that way. Um, but yeah, you also have to remember to grab the crown, and once you get to the top, it gets kind of obnoxious though. 'Cause like you're gonna be at the top, and sometimes you'll have to be forced to wait, but other times you get to the top and the crown just comes right down and gives you it. And the game gives it to you. That almost never happens for me. I always have to sit at the top and wait until everyone else catches up before I have a chance at grabbing it. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and Fall Mountain is one of the more creative finals, and definitely one of the most fun in the game. Number 11, the Whirligig. This is another OG map, which everyone's always loved. The Whirligig, you have to make it to the end of the obstacle course of spinning blades and stuff. Um, this is one of the more fun obstacle course rounds. Probably, I'd say one of the most fun of them all, if I'm honest. But there's some better ones. I just love how everyone just goes flying from these things, and you can use them to get shortcuts. And there's the very ending section where you have to well, the ending section, sorry, not the very ending section, where you have to like jump. You can either go around the sides and go take the slow route, or you can jump through the middle and try and risk getting hit off by the fan. But you can also try and make it through, which is an easy shortcut. So yeah, there's a lot of shortcuts, a lot of fun in this map. I remember just using a lot of shortcuts back in Season 1, and I remember sucking at this map a hell of a lot, but now I've gotten really good at it, I think. Number 10, Snowball Survival. I'm not surprised that when this first came out, people really hated it. Well, I mean, I am kind of surprised, but I mean, the main reason why I think people hated it was just because they were really bad at it. That's my main assumption there. You have to dodge. You're in this little ice rink, and you have to try not to get knocked out by the snowballs, which are just rolling around in there, and they just collide with each other, and it's just really difficult sometimes. You have to just survive for a minute. You can like break the ice tiles as well. It's so much fun. There's a lot of tactics. There's people who can just be uh douches on this. And yeah, it's a lot more fun with more people, I'd say. But the thing is, I just don't get it very much nowadays, sadly. It was a very fun map, and I just enjoyed seeing it. Number 9, Night Fever. Now, Night Fever is probably one of the best races in the game, to be honest. This was to show off the season 2 hazards, and there's like drawbridges. It's all medieval looking. There's drawbridges, thick bonkuses, bridges with spikes on them, and there's a bunch of different variations of it as well. Like there can be up to 3 big Yeetuses on it at once as well. I just love the design of this map. I love that you know, it's like more linear, but like it's more intense than some of the other ones. It like feels a bit more difficult for a race map. And yeah, it was a big learning experience back in season 2, and I remember how much I struggled with the thick bonkuses and the spiky bridges, but it's a fun map. It's I prefer it to Tundra Run, even if it's a lot more linear. Linear things aren't always the worst things after all. Number 8, Skyline Stumble. Holy moly, we're getting into the really good maps now. Um, Skyline Stumble is basically you have to make it to the end of the futuristic obstacle course. It's another obstacle course one, I know. It's like futuristic based, um, whereas it's just showing off all the futuristic hazards like the anti-gravity. It was really chaotic on the first time playing this. I loved every second of it. You can just hit buttons to shoot stuff at people. I love that. I was always interested in that being a mini game after I saw that, like a team game where you have to, or like a survival game where you have to like shoot stuff at each other. That'll be pretty funny. But I and I like that there's this like section which is like a sort of hexagon maze type thing where you have to hit buttons and it will spawn. It will like swap what the walls are, which paths are blocked and which paths are opened, and you have to like go down into the middle section. I don't know why you go all the way around the back, but you can if you want. But yeah, that's Skyline Stumble, and it's a really fun map. And I especially love the flippity bippity section where you have to, at the end, like fling yourself to the top. I love that this map did what Tundra Run didn't do with its one section, and did a bunch of take the middle path, which is the harder path, or you can go around the outside and take the slower path. And that's what Fall Guys seems to do, and it works so well. I especially look forward to seeing a bunch more of these in the future. Number 7, Hexagon. A lot of people love Hexagon, and I do as well. You have to jump from tile to tile, and try to be the last one standing. This round is so much fun. I remember this one was the first one I saw when I first saw Fall Guys. This was the first minigame I saw. Hexagon. People were saying about how good this minigame was. I played it. It's so much fun. It's the tiles disappear after you step on them, unlike Thin Ice where it just starts breaking as you step on them. And yeah, it's a lot more intense. I always wish there were more obstacles on this, which is one of the reasons why it's not number 1. And the other reason why it's not number 1, which people would expect it to be, is because the low gravity version of it, God, that one is awful. It basically turns the level into Thin Ice pretty much. It makes the game as enjoyable as Thin Ice pretty much, and that's why I'm not a big fan of that and Hexa 4041 Trials. But Hexagon Trials in general, it's really fun. It's especially with more people, it's more chaotic, more fun, just overall more enjoyable. Number 6, Short Circuit. This is another really creative racing round. You have to make it to the end of this isn't like a normal race round where you have to make it to the end of the level. No, instead, this one's a circuit, so you have to race around the track twice in order to qualify. You have to do 2 laps. And it's a good idea because the second time you do it, the map will feel a little bit more different to the first time you went through it. Like, because people have been messing with like buttons and stuff, and different obstacles will be activated once you make it to the second lap, after people have made it through the first lap. it's just a lot of fun. It feels different the second time you play it, and I love how there's multiple different variants of it as well. Another thing I also quite like is that it eliminates a lot of people, around 50%, 50 or 60, which is a high amount of people. So you can always look forward to that when you see it. And it also brings back the gates from Gate Crash, except you can now jump over them with the lower gravity, but you can also swap the gravity so it's high gravity and make it more annoying for other people. It's just stuff like that, you know? It uses the mechanics in the game that were already there in a brilliant way. Number 5, Freezy Peak. I don't know about you, but I really like Freezy Peak. It's just such a it's just such a great feel to it. I can't explain it. It's just I love that you have to climb up this frozen mountain, and you have to avoid all sorts of hazards while climbing up it. I would have liked if this was like a new slime climb thing, where you'd have to outrun the slime or like not fall off or something, and there'd be stuff to knock you down. But at the end of the day, Freezy Peak is what it is, and Freezy Peak is still really fun. It's just satisfying, especially once you get to the very second section you have to climb up, and you can either go on the outside slower path or the inside path where you have to avoid being punched by the punchers, or you can just try the strat where you jump over the Slingus Flinguses. It's crazy, and then you get to this little carousel at the top, this little carousel thing with like conveyor belts and walls and stuff that you have to make it to the top, climb, climb up, fly up on the fan and make it to the top. It's just so it just actually feels like you're climbing a mountain in this game. It's it's really well done to Fall Guys team here. Number 4, the Slime Scraper. Yeah, this round is really fun. When it was added in Season 4, I was so hyped for it because it's a new slime climb but with futuristic obstacles. And I learnt a few shortcuts quite quickly, actually, and it's just there's many different ways you can play it, and it eliminates so many people. The problem I have with this map, which is why it's not as good as Slime Climb, however, the main issue I have with this map is like the ending doesn't feel as like scary. I mean, there is the section where you have to jump over like the conveyor belts and stuff. You have to jump from conveyor belt to conveyor belt, and if you mess up your jump, you go falling back to the next layer down. The conveyor belts push you off. I like that, but the thing is, I miss being able to once you get to the top, if you mess up, then you're just done for. But in this one, if you get to the top, it's basically free. So yeah, but I also like the slime scraper final variant of it, where it's like first one to the end wins. But that one's kind of luck based because there's one specific shortcut which you can skip a lot of the map with. That's like really obnoxious to pull off. Number 3. Oh God, Hoopsie Legends. If you know me, you know I'm a sucker for the hunt minigames because there's not so many of those in the game at the moment. I like that they're a bit different from the normal rounds of Fall Guys, and yeah, this one's certainly different, alright? It's Hoopsie Daisy, but solo. You have to score 6 points in order to qualify, and the golden hoops are worth 5 of those 6 points. A lot of people may think, oh well, you just got to go for the golden hoops then, haven't you? Well, no, you can also easily go for the silver ones as well. But the thing with the silver hoops is, I think what the game should have done is once a certain person jumps through the hoop and gets the point, like it should be then set set like a timer of a few seconds before it disappears again, so more people can jump through the hoop and score points. Or like just in general, once multiple people can jump through a hoop, but once someone's jumped through the hoop, it will just instantly go back up after like a small delay. But I just wish multiple people could get the silver hoops. Of course, I understand for the golden hoops because, you know, you don't want to give out so many lots of 5 points that it's almost pointless. It's almost just pointless going for the silver hoops, but I feel like the silver hoop should have some leniency there. But I really like this, and this minigame has always made me think, has always made me want a Hoopsie Daisy final. Give me that Hoopsie Daisy final, guys. But yeah, as I said earlier, the Hoopsie games are like really satisfying when you jump through the hoops. Number 2, Hoverboard Heroes. You have to ride the hoverboard to the end of the level while avoiding a bunch of obstacles and jumping onto different islands. You have to just make it to the end pretty much to survive, but there's a lot of obstacles that can kind of screw you over. I love these mini games where anyone can be eliminated, any amount of players can. It's not set number, any of them can be eliminated. And that's exactly what this game is. I especially love the very unfair, the very obnoxiously placed fan which moves back and forth on the opposite side of the cannons which fire. As you can see in that picture, the cannons firing. I love the lasers, I love the futuristic theme, I just love this map. Give it to me every time. I just love it. The only thing is, it's like not in squads mode, and that I find just really depressing. Uh, give me hoverboard heroes in squads mode, team, Fall Guys. I'd love it. We'd all love it. Anyway, time for the number 1. And if you've been paying attention, you know what it is. It's Slime Climb. I love Slime Climb. It's the OG map. It's the original of the hardest maps in the game. I couldn't not give Slime Climb number 1. It's it's so much fun. You just get to the race to the top and slime rises. There's a lot of shortcuts you can take as well, which are also kind of risky because there's a lot of people taking them. And I especially love a lot of the different variations. Like I love all the variations. They all feel like they have a purpose. Like making the game more interesting, like the big yeetus on the top where you have to yeet over the slime. You have to just yeet yourself over pure slime to make it to the end using the big yeetus if you want, or you can just take the slower path. And I loved when they did the Slime Climb Time show, a show of my favorite mini game over and over again. We need more maps like this. At some point, I'm hoping Slime Scraper gets more variations and this one gets more variations. It will just be a blessing. Anyway, I'm presuming, you can presume I will end the, what is it? You can presume that I'll continue with another video of this nature at some other point, which would be when Season 8 comes round, I guess. I'll do another video of this nature on all the mini games at that point from Season 5 to 8. So, I guess I'll catch you guys in a bit. Bye.